Hi everybody, Tiffany here. Well, welcome to my Quilting Live. Today is video 6 of the Dresden Sew Along. So if you're new to my channel, subscribe, like, share my videos with your quilty friends, and just remember that after you watch this video, it'll be considered a replay. So, hello everybody. Um, I'm just going to sit here and wait for people to come in and get the notification that I am on. We got Judy here and BJ here so far, and that's it. So
I'm here.
at least that's what it says. So for now, we're just gonna sit here and say hi. Hi. um, Today is border start or sashing, starting the sashing. But I do, before anybody gets here, I do want to explain that I kind of got ahead of myself and I forgot to show you guys something after I sewed. And I said the other day on video 5 that I was going to press all my Dresdens, and then remember I said one looked wonky? Well, 2 ended up wonky, and I ended up trimming all of my big blocks now down to 23.5 inches because one was very wonky and I got 23.5 inches one way, so I just trimmed a 1/4 inch off of both the other sides because it was still 24 inches. So now my big Dresden blocks, let me just bring one up here, are 23.5 inches square. And all I did, and this is what I did not do on camera because I totally spaced it and got myself ahead of I was editing a video today. And I got myself ahead of myself in here trying to make sure I got most of it done so that I wasn't on forever. So all I did was on the ones that were 24 inches and didn't change in size, because the 2 that were wonky did change in size, I trimmed those equally on both sides. That way they were 23.5 inches. And then the ones that were 24 inches exactly, I just trimmed a 1/4 inch off of all 4 sides using my cutting mat, the actual cutting mat, lining it up. I would cut a 1/4, turn, lined it up, it cut a 1/4, and it landed exactly at 23.5. I turned it again, cut a 1/4, and then my final turn, I lined it up on the lines on the mat and then cut at 23.5 again. So all of my blocks now, unfortunately, are now at 23.5 inches. So that changes my size. So you guys can trim yours, like I said on video 5, press all your blocks after you've sewn all the way around them and get that roundabout measurement, because 2 of mine ended up wonky, and they will end up wonky. It's not a foolproof thing here, and that's with any block that you make quilting wise. Not everything is always the same size. Some are 1/8 of an inch off, some are like 2 millimeters off. Nothing's perfect. So please go ahead, press all your blocks after you stitch all the way around them, and then measure them using your cutting mat and trim them to whatever size your smallest one is. And it turned out my smallest one on one side was exactly 23.5, so it literally shrunk only one way, a 1/2 inch, which was kind of weird, and the other side was still 24 inches, and then the other one was like 1/8 of an inch off and a 1/4 inch off, so I just trimmed that down. And I did it equally on all 4 sides. That way there's the same amount of space on all 4 sides to quilt, and they'll still look, like when you look at the quilt, everything will still look center because we lined everything up center. So let me see who's all here now. And when we scroll back up, we got Katrina and Zella and Kim. Hello. We got Patty, Vicky. Hello. We got Angela and Suburban and Beverly here. Hello everybody. So today is starting the sashing. So I'm going to open up my 2 yards of sashing fabric, because I haven't opened any of this stuff. I just been kind of going as I go, working as I go. So I'm going to just open up my sashing fabric, and today we're going to start on sashing. And since now my blocks are 23.5 inches, that means my sashing needs to be 23.5 inches. So I have 2 yards of fabric here, and kind of wondering how it's, did they not cut my yardage consecutively? Oh, no, they did, okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to bother pressing this because I really don't need to. I'm going to put my block out of the way.
Can you turn the camera on?
No. And I'm going to lay my 2 yards right here. And I am going to press it. I'm going to press it. It seems a little bit folded too long in that envelope. So I'm just going to press it real quick so that it's nice and flat. And once it's, I'm just going to press it while it's in half too. I'm just going to line everything up and just press it nicely in half because I'm going to cut 2 pieces at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and press this in a second. Here, Scott, you can have this now and see who else is
Where are
coming
you?
in.
I don't know where you're at.
We're at Beverly, so we're at Podunk. Pretties is here, Dawn is here, no one's saying hi, and Kathy is here. Alright, so Scotty can take that now, and I'm going to press this as soon as the iron is warm. That way I have
You
nice
iron it for you?
straight fabric to work with. So it's like directly off the bolt. Just going to line up the 2 tops, put it over on my ironing board, and flatten both the fold all at the same time. Because it's easier that way for me.
Hi, Cam.
And then I'll flip it over and press the opposite side.
Do you want me to iron?
No, I got
Do
it.
you want me to turn the camera so I can see you iron?
No, it's fine. They can just stare at the wall.
Okay.
Momentarily. Put that right there. I'm going to flip my yardage around. I'm at least explaining what I'm doing.
Hi, Vicky.
And flatten it out and then press again.
Oh, Vicky's on here.
Hello, hello. Welcome, 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 everybody. So I'm just pressing all the fabric at once, nice and flat. Looks good to me. So I'm going to bring it back over here, lay it on my cutting mat, and we are now going to start cutting our sashing for our 23.5-inch blocks. So I'm going to find the shortest area and line that up on the line, just so that I know I'm cutting it all at the same exact time. It's a good thing Missouri Star goes over with the yardage just ever so slightly. They don't give you exactly 1 yard. They give you like 1 yard and 1 inch, just so that you have extra room to make cuts or fix the fabric or straighten fabric out, because sometimes when it's on the bolt it does not come perfectly flat. So I'm going to do my best to make a nice straight line right here to start. Just like that. And now I'm going to switch to my other ruler, which is
There you go. Is that good? I want to close
It's like a purple with all the colors on it. It goes with the whole line. This one is the...
That ain't purple, honey. That's brown.
No, it's not brown. It's purple. It is the Through the Years Perennials Purple. 2 yards of it. Alright, and I'm going to cut 2.5-inch strips. And I'm going to cut like 10 to start with, because I'm just going to be sewing them all together.
Hi, Dawn. Hi, Ginger.
Hi, Dawn. Hi,
Ginger says, love your videos.
Oh, thank you. So I'm going to cut 2.5-inch strips. And I'm cutting 2 at a time this way, because it's folded in half. So I'm just going to line my ruler up and cut 2.5 inches. And I'm using my ruler for the cuttings, not the cutting board. I did use the cutting board for the cuttings of the Dresdens themselves, but I'm using the ruler to cut my fabric. So I'm going to just cut 10 for now, and then we're going to be sewing them together into one long strip anyway, and then sub-cutting those really long strips.
It really looks brown.
Okay. then I'm going to make one more cut, which will give me 10 strips to start with.
Odom says, nice fabric choice. Love the little flowers.
Yes. Well, the client did not want big flower prints. So for now, I'm just going to fold this and move it out of the way. I'm going to probably need more. And you guys know that I overestimate with everything I do. And what we're going to do now is take...
Plug this for now, we're going to still need it.
It's... Just leave it on. I'll just touch it when it starts making noise. I'm going to line all these tips up and cut all my salvages off because I'm going to sew them like I do when I sew binding. Except I'm not doing a diagonal seam, I'm actually just going to do a straight seam. I'm just lining up all the salvages so I can cut them all off at the same exact time and then hook them all together. You guys have seen me do this step plenty of times to know how I do it and make it easy on myself when sewing multiple strip units together and keeping things nice. I just line the salvages up together and cut them all at once.
Ginger says, love your sewing area.
Thank you. Alright, so I'm just line these all up and cut all the salvages off at the same exact time because I don't need them. Stack every single one of these up, and this is the part that it keeps everybody from getting confused.
I have a question.
What?
Podunk Pretty's asks, is there a reason why you aren't doing a diagonal seam?
Because I don't want to. You don't have to with sashing. So, we're just going to stack all of them up. This is the easiest method to make a ton of sashing because I'm just going to be subcutting it into 23-inch segments. So, I'm going to pull the bottom one off, like that. Then my next two should be right sides together, and I'm going to sew those with a 1/4 inch seam, and sew those through.
Hi, darling.
That means the next two that you pull off are right sides together already, and then it just over and over and over
Should
again.
I come in closer while you sew?
Do you want to come hold it close?
I'm just
Come
moving
hold
the
it
stand.
close for a second.
I meant move the stand.
Oh,
Podunk says, LOL, same here. I don't like diagonal seams.
yeah, I don't really do diagonal seams on borders and sashing and stuff. I mean, you can if you want to. That's all on you if you prefer that way, but I don't. I don't see the need to, honestly. So I'm just, every two are right sides together already, so I just pull them off and sew them through. They're already right sides together. Most of them are already lined up by the time you lay them down. Sometimes you might have to adjust just a little bit. This is the best way to sew a ton of strips together in a long row and make it easier.
Angela asks, what are you cutting the sashing at, 2.5?
Yes, 2.5 inches. So for those that are following along, sashing is 2.5 inches. And see my last one right here is right side up. And this is the last two that are right sides together. So that when I snip all these apart, I'm going to find that end, keep it aside just so you can see. When I snip all these apart, this is why I do this.
Ginger doesn't like the diagonal seams either. She says, I don't think they look as good on the quilts.
Now I should have one continuous, really long, right sides together, everything's facing out properly, long strip. And now I'm going to press it, just all the seams. I'm just going to find all the seams and press them to one side. Doesn't really matter what side you press them to, or you can press them open, that's on you. I don't really press any seams open. So I'm going to come over here to the ironing board.
Do you want me to turn the camera now?
If you want to, yes.
Okay.
And just press all of the seams. I'm just going to find the seams only. I don't need to press anything else, just the seams. I mean, you can press where the fold of the fabric was if you want. I'm just pressing them all to one side.
Kim got 27 Crown Royal bags yesterday. She says, fun to come. Do you know what that's about?
Kim did?
Yeah, is Kim doing something with Crown Royal bags?
Yeah, she's gonna make something.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people make Crown Royal quilts.
Oh.
You didn't know that? I thought I
No.
showed you that before. I'm just pressing all of my seams to one side. Now you guys get to watch the back side of me. I'm also just pressing.
Do you want me to move it onto the side of you?
No, it's fine. They can see right here, right? When I do.
Yes. You can move the camera wherever you want.
I just pull a little bit of tension on my left hand as I move the fabric with my right hand. Just to make it flat, I just kind of use my left hand to flatten it out and open that seam all the way. So the right hand is holding the fabric down and sliding over the seam, and the left hand is pulling it a little snug so that it helps it stay flat. And there should be 10 strips here. The width of fabric minus the selvage. And now what we're going to do is I have 12 blocks. So what I'm going to do, try to keep this nice and flat, because I want to cut more than one at a time. I'm going to find this end and this end and put them right sides together, or wrong sides together, facing up. And I'm going to flatten this whole thing out like this.
Howdy, Jim.
I'm just going to lay it on my table.
Jim's watching on his TV, so he doesn't hide or time out anyone.
Oh, that's okay.
It's alright, Jim.
It
No
happens.
problem. She didn't even realize it happened, I don't believe.
I'm just making a nice straight together piece. I'll adjust as I go, but for now I'm just putting it all together.
Oh yeah, today's Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. Vicky reminded us. She said Happy Cinco de Mayo.
And then the end is turned, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is make sure that they're lined up at the end, because I cut the selvages off at the same exact time. And I'm going to come line this up on my board, on my cutting mat now, and I'm going to come over 23.5 inches. I'm going to straighten this side up again though, because it kind of got a little wonky doing that, but it's not much. It's just a tiny, tiny,
Can I
tiny
move the
smidge.
camera on this side? It's close in there.
You can if you want to, yeah.
What? Up to you. I'm asking you.
Yeah, sure. So they can see what I'm doing.
Hi, Elena.
So what I'm doing
Go for a walk.
is I'm holding this, and I'm going to slide my ruler over so everything is nice and flat, and I'm coming over to 23.5 on my mat, because, well, the only ruler you'll have is your 24-inch ruler. You can line that up at the end on the 24-inch mark, and then make your cut every time, but I'm just going to use this to keep everything nice and flat, and then I'm going to make a cut. So I'm going to line it up on 23.5 and make a cut. So there's 2, that's for 1 block. We're going to do that 12 times, because I build my sashing just a little bit different. And don't worry about the seams. You're going to have seams, but we pieced it together for a reason, because then we would be just using 23 strips times 2, and then we'd have tons of waste. So we're not going to have a bunch of waste. So again, I'm going to come to 23.5. Everything's nice and lined up. Make a cut. So there's, for another block, we're going to keep flattening this out, lining it up at the end, both of them at the same exact time. And you can hold your hand at the end and slide your ruler so that your strips stay nice and flat the whole time, or not bunched up, in case you're worried about any kind of bunching. 23.5, make a cut.
Yes, Katrina, we can do that
3
if you want.
Cuts, 2 at a time. What?
Katrina wants us to share her address with Kim, or wants us to share Kim's address with her, so she can send Kim more Crown Royal bags.
Okay, and Kim said it was okay?
Not yet, but I'm sure she doesn't mind. You can talk to him after.
23.5 inches, and I'm cutting 2 pieces at a time. Remember, I laid them on top of each
Yes,
other.
she says that will be fine.
That'll be 4.
So yes, they don't mind if you share each other's address with each other.
So I'm
then
just
they
keeping
can-
everything flat and then adjusting and using my hands.
They can be pen pals and mail stuff and everything.
You can just line it up on any line on your mat. Slide the ruler down 23.5 and just keep cutting at 23.5 inches, or whatever you kept your Dresden at. If yours didn't shift and you have 24-inch blocks, cut your sashing at 24 inches. But you know, if you want to just keep going like me, you can trim all your blocks to 23.5, which is what I had to do. I'll lay this on there, just sliding the ruler down so it keeps everything nice and flat. This will be 6. 1, 2, 5, 6. There's 2 per. We're probably going to have to cut more yardage because we're getting real close.
How many
We
blocks
cut
do you
12.
have? 12?
Mm-hmm.
2 per, so you need to cut 24.
23.5. There's 2 more, so that's 7. Alright, and we're going to have to cut more strips off of the yardage, but that's fine. We just started with 10 for now.
Oh, you have 2 each, so you're only cutting 12 then. It's technically
Yes.
12 times 2 is 24. Okay. You had me lost there for a second.
Down to the 23.5 because that's what my blocks are. Make a cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You're talking about drinking. It's 5
All
o'clock
right.
somewhere.
So I'm going to reline these up. So this was 10 strips, and it's getting me 9 blocks worth to start. I think is what I'm at. So we're going to have to cut like 5 more. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so let's cut 5 more strips off the yardage. I didn't pre-do the math on this because I didn't know what my blocks were totally 100% going to be for an accurate number, so that's why it's just like a follow along. That's why I do these videos. I'm going to reline the yardage up because I did move it. We're going to cut 2.5-inch strips again. Everything's nice and level and flat. Grab my ruler and cut 2.5-inch strips. So I'm just going to line it up. Line it up. 1, 2, we'll cut 6 just to be safe. That's why I got 2 yards. Plus I'm doing a second project anyway. 3, 4, and 2 more. That should give us plenty. That shifted when I cut. Hold that down and just shave that piece off. 10, 11, 12, yeah, because you're not going to get 23.5 inches. Nope, we need 1 more strip. I just thought about it right now. 1 more strip. So we're cutting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 off the second time. The first time we cut 10, so 17 strips altogether. I'm pretty sure now. Because now that I'm thinking about it. Alright, so I'm going to move this yardage out of the way. We're going to do the same exact thing, line all them up, and then sew them all together in one long continuous row again. And I was cutting 2 at a time. So far I've cut 17 2.5-inch strips. And we're going to be cutting more, so don't toss your yardage yet because we still have the last of it to cut.
I agree
The
with you,
outer side.
Elena.
What?
She says, damn, is Tiffany stripping again? She's one sexy woman. Goodness gracious. Hi, Heather.
Because we're we're going to cut more after we get the first part. And this is all sit down. We don't need to lay this quilt out at all. We're going to do all of this sitting on our bums at our machine. I know I typically tell you guys to get up and stretch and stuff, but most of this is just sit down piecing. You don't have to stand. Alright. So I'm going to hook all these together after I cut these. Salvages off. So 17 strips so far just for the inner sides. And then I'm going to sew them together. Better close that blade because I have issues. I'm going to go ahead and move that bottom one and then sew them all right sides together again with a 1/4 inch seam, just so that I know I have plenty of strips. Every two will be right sides together. This is the easiest way to sew any kind of border or sashings. And then there's one that's right side up, always left. Trim them apart and then take it over and flatten all those seams, which I'm just going to hold in my hand so that I know where they are.
Do you want me to turn it or no? Because
Yeah.
now we're going to be like right on your back unless I move the whole thing. Okay, we'll just move the whole thing. Watch out. Just take one stand here.
All I'm doing is pressing the seams down.
We'll move the whole thing out here in the
Also
hallway.
pressing the creases. Yeah, that's just a hassle. You could have just held it.
I asked you. Hi, Judy. Judy's watching while at work. Don't get in trouble, Judy.
Yes, don't ever get yourselves in trouble. I'm just pressing all the seams and then at the crease. I mean, you don't have to press the crease, but I kind of made it more prominent when I pressed the fabric to start with anyway.
Yes, I understood what you meant there, Lena. It's good. Good to have a good laugh. She couldn't resist the double entendre, you know?
Yeah,
The making strips and stripping, yeah. That's what she said.
it's fine. I don't care. I'm silly. I'm a weirdo. So
I know.
you
That's
guys
why I
all-
said
they
we
all know
love it.
this. All right.
We're
I'm just
having
gonna,
fun.
While I'm right here, keep this together.
You gotta have fun while doing
Stack
this.
them on top of each other. If I could find that very end where I started. Put them together, and then I'm gonna take them over and cut 2 at a time again.
So I'm moving again?
That over here.
Moving, moving, moving. You cutting or sewing here?
Cutting.
Okay.
Okay, it's all on the table. So that way nothing shifts. And I'm gonna again line up the ends and cut over 23 inches. Because I'm at 9, so I need 10, 11, 12. So I need 3 more, and then the rest can go towards the outer part of the sashing once we get all of the blocks together, because I'm building it onto the blocks first, if you guys haven't noticed that I'm doing a certain thing here, so we don't have to stand up except for doing all this cutting.
How's your wrist doing these days with cutting? Because I'm sure they're going to
It's
ask.
not horrible. It's not horrible at all. It's just the pressure. That's it. But my blade is fresh, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and one more cut, and the rest is going to go towards the last of it, so we don't have to worry about that. Just leave them all together. We might have to add a little bit to it, but that's fine. Do that later. It's going to be a while of sewing first. Okay, and there's 12. So there's 12 blocks worth.
Hi, June.
I'm going to keep all this together because we're going to add to it later. Because we have more to cut. So we're just gonna leave that over there. Take all these. Oh, nope, we don't want to take these just yet. We need to grab a fat quarter that was left.
I can pick all that stuff up.
So, from our fat quarter bundle, remember we still had tons left. Choose a color from it that you like. So I'm just going to go through all these and like line them out and go, oh, I have 2 blues left, because my second project is going to want me to use these. And if you didn't get the 40 pack, you have lots and lots of pieces left like this that you can cut your cornerstones from your yardage. So
SL wants you to go over again why you did the straight seams instead of the diagonal.
I think I'm gonna pull
Okay.
because I want to. I don't like the diagonal seam, honestly. I don't. I think I'm gonna go with this one as my cornerstones. All right. So I'm going to choose this one as my cornerstones. That looks good. And then it looks great against that. Perfect.
Vicki asked,
Awesome.
what are you going to make?
What do you mean, what am I going to make?
Hi. This is what are you going to make? Tiffany's quilting.
Oh, we're making the Dresdens. All right, so I'm going to press my fat quarter now, and I'm going to cut 12 2.5-inch squares from this to start. I'm just going to leave it aside because I'm only cutting 12 for now. I'll press it real quick. It was super folded up for so long.
I think maybe she meant, what are you going to make with this fabric? What are you...
Oh, my secondary project
Yeah.
is a wall hanging from all the fabric leftovers, which is the secondary project for you guys to follow along. If not, you can do whatever you want with your leftover pieces. But I had to get enough for the wall hanging.
Yes, well, she's ironing here. She has to make a wall hanging to go in this big giant frame behind that. You guys can see the frame.
To this frame right here.
Yes.
So right
Yes.
now,
She's commissioned a quilt and a wall hanging that fits in that frame.
to go with the quilt.
That matches, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to cut 12 2.5-inch squares from here to start. Just going to line it up. I'm going to cut a nice straight line here to start. Make it straight from one of my fat quarters. Turn it around and cut 2.5-inch strip. And 2 of them. I cut 2 of them, and I'm cutting in the length. It's no big deal how you cut them.
Elena says if one isn't careful, the diagonal can sometimes go wavy when attaching borders, so can understand using the straight, not needing the diagonal.
Yeah, I prefer straight seams. I don't really do diagonal on borders and sashing.
Vicki says you just answered her other question. You must be clairvoyant.
All right, so I'm gonna move this aside because I'll probably cut more from it in a little bit. Let's see. I just need to cut 12 2.5-inch squares. I'm gonna stack these on top of each other. And the real cool part about having this Missouri Star ruler here is I could just cut off the selvage, lay the ruler on here, and cut 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There we go. So I'm going to move that over there. That'll probably be one more strip will probably cover the rest that we need in a little while. I'll bring all of these with me because I just need 12. And then I'm going to bring over my strips with me. Just like this. And all 12 of these I'm going to hook to only 12 of these sashing strips. So we're going to put...
Angela says I use that little ruler all the time, and Vicki says I have a
3,
Creative Grids ruler that's 2.5 inches wide.
4, 5.
Elena says I'm going to research one of those handles for my ruler. They are so awesome.
7,
You found that at the thrift store, right?
Yeah.
At Goodwill?
9, 10. I'm just grabbing 12. I should have 12 for the second pile because I'm probably not really counting properly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 12 without, and 12 of them are going to have a little cornerstone on them. So I'm just going to grab one strip and one cornerstone, and I'm going to sew them through at a 1/4 inch seam, just like that. Move it out of the way, grab another one, and just chain piece these through. All 12 of them. Because we have 12 blocks. So we need 12 cornerstones to start. Because we still have to make the outer border ones in a little bit, but we'll do that when I get to it.
When I get to it. Like that.
I'm just going to sew all these on. I kind of like when I get so far, I know what I need, but I 90% of the time build as I go, you know, because it's easier instead of giving you guys like a messed up amount of directions. I might as well just build it. And that way you can watch it as I direct you when you get to this step. Sewing on my little 2.5 inch cornerstones onto my sashing, but only to one part of the sashing. And then we're going to press them. And all I did was take one more fat quarter from the bundle. It doesn't matter which one, whatever one you think looks the best. Unless you're not using the big bundle, then use leftovers from your backing, because your sashing is a totally different color than your backing, so your backing fabric will be brought out into the cornerstones if you want. I did not do that, but I didn't want to.
Elena wants to know how your daycation was
On
your little short trip.
I worked actually, and yesterday's short trip, well, both me and Scott were up all night long and all day long, and most of the night long again, because we had a hard time. Once we were so pooped from driving and everything, we could not fall asleep last night. So we were both up past midnight. He was up past midnight that I know of, and I was up till almost 4 in the morning. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but how was Joann's and Walmart?
We went
Tuesday
to Joann's
morning?
and Walmart and Tuesday morning because the quilt shops there in Prescott were closed. So I'm going to press all of these cornerstone pieces towards my sashing. Okay? I'm just going to press them all towards the sashing. I'm just going to lay it down on the mat, press it towards the sashing.
What did you think of their Walmart and Tuesday morning and
Well,
Joann's?
I do know that I didn't like those cottonwood trees blowing all their dander of cotton or whatever it is everywhere. It was like
the allergy central.
We both came home with runny noses and clogged noses by the end of the night because we were in all that allerginess. We're used to like not that. And then it was cold when we got to Prescott. Like super
Well, that
cold.
we knew. I was expecting that.
No, I really don't like cold. Like, seriously, guys. And then on the way home, we decided to take Route 66 and stopped at the Roadkill Cafe, not to eat, because we ate at Denny's before we left town.
Yeah, how come you didn't post that picture on your Facebook or on your group?
Forgot.
Or yeah, you should have posted that picture.
So we stopped at Roadkill Cafe so I could have a cigarette, because I'm a smoker, and take a selfie, just because we wanted to have a selfie at the Roadkill Cafe. Well, I wanted to. Scott could care less. He doesn't like taking pictures. But I do. Alright, almost done. So I'm just pressing them all the same way.
Hi, Diane.
Welcome, 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 everybody coming in. I know you get to stare at my back while I press all these. And one more. And then we're going to get on to the big part of the sewing.
Kim, it's because of all the cooking you're doing. Maybe you're making them hungry like you always make me hungry.
Alright, so all 12 of my blocks, or my strips, are pieced and pressed. We're going to move this out of the way and we're going to start the big part. So I'm just going to move this up out of the way too because I don't need that for a while.
No, SL Prescott isn't the closest large city to us.
No.
The closest like super large city to us, I would guess, would be Vegas. Vegas is only like
3.5 hours that we were on the road. All right, so
Vegas
here's
is
all
only
my
like
blocks.
2 to 3 hours from us. Where Prescott is like 3 to 4.
Okay, so here is all my blocks. What I'm going to do now is I'm keeping mine directional because my print kind of makes this wave down. So I'm going to keep that directional. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these and then one of my, I'm going to move these out of the way, one of my sashing strips that does not have a cornerstone on it, but just the 23-inch strip all by itself.
Yes,
and I am going to attach it to the right side.
It's a big deal on Route 66, the Roadkill Cafe.
Yeah.
And they serve buffalo burgers.
I'm going to back stitch at the tops of all of these because I don't want any of, they're big blocks, so you don't want them to fall apart. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. I'm just going to hold it. You can pin it on if you want, but they're exactly the same size, so when I put the two ends together, everything's perfect. They are 23.5 inches. Nothing shifted or adjusted. Back stitch at the end. And then, what we're going to do, I'm going to finger press this out. Which way did I put these again? I totally forgot. Towards the cornerstone, right? No, towards the sashing.
I don't know. I was not, honestly not paying attention.
Yep, towards the sashing. So we're pressing out. So I'm going to press out towards the sashing, like this. I'm going to take it over to the iron and press it. Just want to flatten it out first because it is a big block. So I'm going to finger press it back real quick, and I'm going to take it to the iron and flatten it down more. And to keep yourself from getting messed up, you just sewed it on the right side. To keep myself from getting messed up and turning my block and sewing it on the opposite side, I'm going to take my sashing now with the cornerstone, and I'm going to put it down here on this end.
Elena says they eat pheasant in the UK. Interesting. We would try pheasant.
And I'm going to nest up this seam right here, and I'm going to start sewing at the cornerstone. So I'm just going to nest that up. You can pin it if you want. You guys know me, I really rarely pin unless I absolutely have to. So I'm going to line them up. It should be exactly the right size now.
Vicky says she's been there.
What, Route 66?
I'm not sure if she's talking about that or eating buffalo burgers.
Oh.
She says we've been there.
So I'm just going to keep lining it up. I'm not stretching or pulling anything. You can go ahead and grab your ends. They should line perfectly up. And you can just hold it at the end if you want to. Without stretching or pulling.
Hi, Mary. Mary says they eat pheasant as well right there in Kansas.
Okay, so now again I'm just going to finger press this towards the sashing. And then I'm going to press it and then I'll hold it up so you guys can see what we're doing to our blocks. It's nice and flat.
Okay, you guys
So
are
now
talking about food too
I
much.
have
Gonna make me
this, so
hungry
you can
again.
see my sashing now is hooked with a cornerstone already at the bottom. So this would be, say, square 1, right?
That's awesome. I love it.
So I'm going to put this over here on the ironing board and leave it. And then we're going to just chain piece the rest of these big blocks through. I know that seems so weird, right? But that's what we're going to do. So if you want to just show this real quick and then put it back.
She's quite talented,
You
folks.
don't have to take the whole thing, just take the
I'm just gonna, yes. Oops, I accidentally put my finger on the camera. I just hope I didn't make it all dirty. Sorry.
So you can see that's what it looks like with the cornerstone. We're gonna go ahead and chain piece all the one side on first of everything, and then press all of those, and then turn around and do the opposites. All right. This is what makes these projects go super fast for me. So I'm gonna again line it up at the top, back stitch. You can take all the way to the bottom if you want, like this,
Can you guys see? You want me to go in closer?
because it's a big block, or
Y'all
you
have
can
to tell me.
pin them. Yeah, just because. Sorry guys for the movement. There we go. That's as close as it's gonna get.
I asked them if they wanted me to go in closer.
It's fine. Just like that. So I'm gonna line the two ends up, and you can see if I straighten it up and
I
was
wiped
able
the
to hold
camera
this
off,
flat.
and it should be good. It
Like
looks
this.
good here anyway.
And I'm just gonna sew without stretching or pulling.
Hi, Bernie.
Quarter inch seam all the way down. I'm still holding my end as if it was pinned, so it's just being held by my hand. Back stitch, I'm just going to leave it there. Grab the next. Line it up.
Beverly loves your cornerstones.
Back stitch. And just sew on down. You don't have to hold the ends if you don't want to. You can pin them if you want, but honestly, to me, that's just a waste of time. I'm not stretching. I have my first finger in between, thumb on top, and the rest of my hand holding the block. And I just line it up, and it should meet the end every time if you cut everything the exact size. So you can see it lines right up. Back stitch. Leave it on the frame. I'm going to grab the next, and again, everything is in the same direction. So here's one of my pieced blocks. It is exactly in the same direction as everything else, all my background squares. I'm just going to grab another sashing and sew it on. I'm just going to continuously sew all these through. Pedal decided it wanted to start going on. It says, I don't want to sit here and be still. So when I get to the end, see it lines right up. And a back stitch. Leave it on the frame. Grab the next. Everything I laid next to me is all directional, so I laid it all in the exact direction. So no matter what block I grab, as long as it's in the same direction, I should be good. Back stitch again. Sew it, line it up, sew it. I should be able to get all the sashing on all of these blocks today. Line up that end. And out of bobbin. I knew it sounded funny. Throw another bobbin in here real quick. And I'm using two different color threads because at this point, you don't see the thread, so I got white in the bobbin and a cream on the top. I always start back about an inch from where I ended. Right there. Reline the end. Stitch. Back stitch. Push it out of the way, grab another, it's in the direction I want it, add my next piece of sashing. Again, mine came at, my blocks were 23 inches, so I cut my sashing to 23 inches. Although my original block was 24, but two of them got messed up for those that are joining in late. Two of them got off the number, so I had to trim all of my blocks to 23 and a half. Some I just took a quarter off of each side. And then the ones that were messed up was like 1/8 of an inch off of one side and like a smidge off the other so that it was equal. It'll happen. So if you want to trim all of your blocks down to have a quilt exactly the size that mine's most likely going to end up, then line it all up and start trimming. I never said it was going to be perfect.
Better done than perfect, huh?
Nothing's ever perfect.
Let's see if that make it look beautiful.
But that's what makes it awesome. Back stitch, push it out of the way. I know I'm wrinkling it all up, but unless Scott wants to come over here and start pulling these apart,
Sure.
just find the end right here between the two and snip that thread for me.
With the scissors?
There you go. And then you just pull them away. Alright, this one's in the correct direction. Just gonna grab a sashing.
You just want me to lay them on the ironing board with the other one?
No, just stack them over there.
Okay.
Come out. I'm gonna back stitch first.
On here?
I'm always back stitching because these are long strips on a big block. I didn't starch anything. I did press the fabric, so if you want it to be a little bit more crisp as you sew, then make sure that you starch the fabric. I'm gonna line up my end and hold it. Back stitch. Grab the next.
There's cut pieces of your stuff down.
Did it fall or something?
Of that tape stuff that I was cutting pieces for. You know? Throwing them on the floor and hiding
I
them.
have stuff all over the place.
Mm.
Line my end up, which should perfectly line up. Oops, come on, slide over. I want it that way just a little. Back stitch, throw on the next. Until they are all sewn with the first part of the sashing.
Tiffy's running it. She's going quick.
Yeah, this part, the rest of this quilt should go together quick, and you don't have to lay it out on the floor, which is like super awesome.
Hi, DB. DB had her power out for 22 hours.
Holy moly, that's a long time.
Yeah.
You guys need to invest in some solar. Oh wait, in some of you guys' areas, you probably don't even get enough sun for solar.
They don't all live in our town.
We don't have solar yet, but we know lots of people who do.
We want to get it, but it's very, very expensive.
But we don't have the money right now. In the future, when we're older, we'll get it. Alright. Almost. Just a couple more. Line my end up, which is perfect. See, they line right. Oops. Stay. See, lining right up. It's all flat. I don't have anything messed up. There should be two more, right? Yep. Again, I'm sewing only to the right side of everything to start, and then we'll put the other part on. I'm gonna line up my end, back stitch, match these up, should be perfect.
Yeah, DB says
Back
solar
stitch.
or wind wouldn't work there. Wind
And
power.
one more. And then we're going to press them all and then add the other side. I'm not pulling or tugging or stretching anything. They're cut exactly to size.
Hi, Donna.
Hello, hello, everybody. Alright, and that was the last one. So now I just need to press all these back.
Okay, we'll Turn the camera over there then. Watch some ironing.
So I'm pressing them all towards the sashing. Towards the sashing. And then I'm going to lay them back over here on my cutting mat, all facing the same direction. So throw that pile over there. So again, just laying just the end where the sashing is. You can either preheat it as you flip, or you can just roll it back. They're such a big block that they roll back nicely. And then I'm stacking them all next to me with this on the right side because that's how I sewed them on.
Kathy says beautiful, Tiffany. Here, I'll show you how she's stacking.
So they're all
Okay.
stacked to the right because my sashing is all going to go on the same exact direction with all of this. Again, this is the easy, no laying the whole quilt out method. Nothing needed to be laid out.
DB
Just
says
getting
she
put
got
together.
the blades cut but hasn't been able to sew it at all.
Well, you should be able to soon. Hopefully everything's going good. So again, I'm just rolling it back. It's a big block. It rolls back nicely, except where all the seams are, but that's okay. And you can't even tell, like seriously cannot tell. If you were using like a specialty fabric, would you even know I had a seam right here? You can't even see the seam. Literally is hidden.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small print. So that is why I put a seam across all of the fabrics and just hooked them all together for this 100% super long sashing and then subcut. Made it so much easier. I'm just rolling it back all the way, keeping them pressed, and I'm putting them right back over to my right side. Do this with all 12 blocks. That way you're still getting up, you know, you don't have to sit still the whole entire time. At least we don't have to lay anything out. And I'm getting my steps in for the day. Because boy do I need them lately. Whew. Yesterday wore me out, and it's because I don't walk as much as I used to.
Hey, you did a lot of walking yesterday. You went in all three of those shops. We didn't even drive to each one. You went one after the other. And then we walked all the way back to the car.
And then we walked around the VA.
Yeah. Yeah, one end of
So
that
you can
hospital to
set
the other.
seam, for
Around
those
the
of
whole
you who
daggone
don't know,
place.
you can set the seam, warm it up so that it folds back nicer. But like I said, these are big blocks. They fold back pretty darn easily without any wrinkles or creases in them.
Mary says gorgeous.
Alright, just a couple more to go. I just roll it back without doing anything else.
See all the same length?
Yeah, that's 25.5 inches now, by the way, guys. 25.5 inch squares.
See you later, Kathy.
Bye, Kathy.
Angela says, I wish I had all the room that Tiffany has to work with.
Well, if you don't have big space, then you can still figure it out in a small space. Just don't get frustrated while you're doing it.
Kim says she got her machine back out today and wound several bobbins so I can get my Dresdens made.
Awesome.
Kim's going to get on it. There's some working done.
Just pressing it. This is the last one because the first one is completely made. So now we're going to turn the camera.
Yep, I'm there.
And now we're going to take our strips or sashing pieces with the cornerstones and sew those on. So all of my blocks now are to the right, my first piece of sashing. So what I'm going to do is just turn the whole thing because I'm sewing from the top down. So from the sashing side down. And I'm going to chain piece them all and then I'll have Scott pluck them apart. And then they will all have the pre-sashed.
Angela says her space is the dining room table, but she makes it work.
I had that when I first started.
Yep, Tiff was there.
First I was in the garage on a folding table. Then it got summertime, so I went in on the kitchen table, and I had to pack it away every day because kids. And then I went back to the garage when it was winter, and then that next summer I decided to sew in my bedroom when I was on live streams with you guys. So, and that was a fold-up table that I had to clean up all the time too because it was in my bedroom and it was in the way.
Diane says you were powered by fabric, so close and yet so far.
All right, so the end should, like, literally, look at this, guys. They meet up perfectly. It's 100% every time.
Yeah, Vicky, this is all made by her. I didn't make any of this. No. She says, beautiful, Scott. You did a great job. Then she says, oh, that's Tiffany that was making it interesting. Yeah, that's
Actually,
Tiff.
I'm just going to pass them and you just take them out of the way. How about that?
Okay.
Make it easier for me.
Okay. Should I put them over here with the other one then?
Hook this one on. Again, my cornerstone, just lay it right here to be ironed.
Oh, okay.
The cornerstone is pressed towards the sashing. This sashing is pressed towards the sashing. So what happened is these seams will nest. So you lay them on top of each other and they will nest perfectly. Oh my goodness, get under there. So I'm still back stitching though.
I get it, Vicky. I get it.
So far, and then just sew some more.
She didn't let me even help her much on this one.
And line the ends up because everything should be perfectly the same size. Or you can pin it. I don't pin anything. You guys know this. I'm so lazy about pinning.
Jim works in the living room on 2 small folding tables. So he's there with you guys.
Grab another sashing with the cornerstone, hook it on the end, nest that seam before I start sewing. I back stitch. Sewing a 1/4 inch seam. Put my 2 ends together, which should match right up. Everything was cut to the exact number that it needed to be. Oops, and I veered off. You know, I tend to do that.
See you later, Mary.
There we go. There's that one. Grab another one. Grab another one of these. Nest that up first. I'm just going to hold it in place, slide it under. Once I get to that seam, then I'll adjust. Just sew on down. Line up this end. Everything nice and flat. Everything wants to vibrate off my table. Alright, next one. Until I'm done. The rest of this quilt is going to go together so quick. And I hope you guys saw the first idea for quilting at Dresden. I'm going to let you know this in advance. There is 6 different ideas, and then the 7th one will be, it could end up one of the ideas, or it's going to be what I need it to be, because I could quilt that as an idea too. But either way, you guys will have 6 different Dresden ideas, and they will all go into the Dresden Sew Long playlist, so that way you can check those out too. And they're just long arms videos. The thing is, there's only one problem. You really can't see the thread because I matched it with my little side projects of the Dresdens. Kind of too good. So I'm doing my best. You could, like, hopefully you guys can at least see somewhat of what I'm doing, you know?
Bye, Dawn.
Because I was doing matching thread.
Oh, they look really cool, though.
Yeah.
Even though the red thread blends very well,
Yeah.
it's still very cool.
Hopefully by the time I get to another one, maybe I'll,
Elena says, oh yes, watched Idea 1 today.
yeah. So I'm putting all those ideas in as I'm doing this. That way by the time I'm done with those, this should be ready for quilting.
And Podunk
Because I
says
do
that
have-
it was beautiful.
Yes, I do have client quilts that I have to do as well during all this, so I'm trying to do the little ones and the clients and little, you know, in between everything. And then I still have to do this when it's finished. And I want you guys to have more than one idea of how to quilt a Dresden, so I figured it would be best if I had 6 ideas instead. Which could be done on a domestic too. And at the end, I turned some of the pictures black and white so that you can see the quilting on them. Which I'm pretty sure you guys saw by now. Getting these done.
Get her done. Darlene says, yes, beautiful, Tiffany.
Because not everybody wants to quilt theirs the same. Some of you are on a domestic, some of you are on long arm. Some of you are sending it out and you can give the idea to the long armor. You like, do this.
Holy cow, some of y'all got some pretty big houses. Our house isn't near that.
What?
Well, Vicky's house is... 2,025 square feet. Katrina
Wow.
says Sherry's house is 4,200 square feet.
Holy moly, yeah, our house is only 1,450 square feet. Our bedrooms are quite big size though for this house, surprising. And we have a nice long living room. We don't have a very big kitchen and the bathrooms are quite large. Alright, just a few more left. And then we'll be ready to press them and get on to the next step. How long have we been on?
An hour and 9 minutes.
Okay.
Suburbans is 1346. Katrina says, where do you watch this? Oh, do you mean where do we film it? I'm not sure.
I
I
don't
mean,
know what she means. When my final kid is left and moved out of this house, the last third bedroom, which is the final bedroom, is going to be turned into the fabric room, and this is going to be the filming room because I will be still making YouTube videos by then. I am 100% sure about that.
okay, I don't know if you want me to tell you this because you're going to be quite jealous, but no. Vicky's house is 6,069 square feet. Her sewing room is 2,025 square feet.
Wow.
Holy cow, someone is quite jealous now.
That is big space. Big
Yeah, your
space.
sewing room alone is bigger than our whole house. Tiff wouldn't know what to do with that much space.
Alright, last one, and then we're going to press them and then put them together. Which should go pretty quick. Hopefully. I mean, everything does have to keep lined up. They are big blocks.
And we don't really have basements or attics out here. Some houses will have a basement, but it's rare. Everything
There
out
are
here
a lot
is
of
just
2 stories though around here.
everything out here is pretty much just one floor. Basic, simple.
So she probably lives in one of those old style houses that I like with lots and lots of square footage and just rooms that are
Diane says
For
she's
like-
gonna move in with her.
they're like rooms that could be a family room and then there's a den and then there's a whatever room and then rooms that you can make into bedrooms. Alright, so we're going to go over to pressing now. And we're just going to go ahead and press all these back.
Back over
Again,
here.
I'm just pressing towards the sashing. And I think for not pinning, this is a pretty darn good seam right here. Look at that nesting right there.
It looks good to me. Looks very
So-
good. Everything you do looks amazing.
We're going to lay that down on the pile and just continue on pressing all these now. And also I'm going to be separating the ones that have pieced backs, or you know, the pieced back part of the Dresden, and then the ones that aren't pieced, because those are...
Oh, Katrina meant the
Yeah,
Dresden
yeah.
tricks. Where do you watch this? The Dresden tricks. Where did you learn them from? Did you watch it from someone?
For this? No, this is just my thing. Is she talking about the videos of how to quilt them?
Maybe.
Because those are on the YouTube channel. Under videos. It's my most recent video before this, because I posted it yesterday. Idea 1, and idea 2 will be on tonight. Hopefully.
Is that what you mean, Katrina? Tiff's other videos that weren't live? They're just
Recorded.
posted, recorded videos?
Trying to keep them under 30 minutes, but some of them aren't, and some of them are.
Well, Elena said, wow, spot on. Tim says, fantastic. Linda says, these are gorgeous. Hi, Linda.
This is not a pieced one.
Vicky says, beautiful.
Pieced ones. Alright, grab another.
Do you want me to hand them to you? Would that make it easier?
Put this over there.
Since you won't let me iron?
Yeah. Hand me all the ones that are not pieced together. So there's 4, separate the 4 that are pieced together.
Okay, non-pieced is not that.
Then I'm also laying them in a pile on the ironing board, all in the same direction.
So what do you want first, the pieced or the non-pieced?
The non-pieced.
Okay, that's a non-piece. That's a non-piece.
So now the block should be 25.5 inches at this point.
Hi, Teresa. Teresa McBrayer is on.
Hi, Teresa. And now they have 25.5 inch blocks. And we're going to put them together in just a few
Yeah,
minutes.
that's what Katrina was talking about. She missed that. Your
Ah.
posted video.
Yeah, it should be on there. They're all going to be in this whole Dresden Sew Along playlist. All the videos will be in that.
Hi, Nita.
Hi, Nita. Alright, almost done.
Nita asks, how much did I miss?
You didn't miss much. I've got the sashing on now. And now we're going to put it together. Alright. So let's get the ones that, if you followed along, you should have 4 blocks, 4 of your big blocks that are pieced behind your Dresden with a 4 patch. And if you're just doing your own thing with the solid fabric in the background, don't worry about that. We're just going to start hooking them together. So I'm going to separate these because there's only 4 of them.
Should I move the camera again?
No.
Okay. Goodness gracious. Katrina says Sherry and her grew up in an 18-room house with a finished attic and basement.
Wow. But that's every room. So that'd be like living room, dining room, kitchen.
I don't know
That
if that's
means
what she
rooms.
means by that, but okay.
Well, like when we went to the one in Texas, it was a 20-room house. Remember? There's
Okay,
20 different rooms.
That thing would have been
But
a mansion if it wasn't
7 of them were
sinking into
bedrooms.
the ground and falling on top
And
of
the rest
itself.
were random rooms for I don't know what.
It would have been one
The one
gorgeous
had the
mansion.
safe in it. The one was like a view outside room. What was that called? Like a Arizona room here, but elsewhere it's called like a second story deck or something. I don't know.
patio on the second floor? Second floor patio?
Oh, I don't know what they're called. Okay, final block being pressed. So now I have all 12 with my sashing pre-built on to my blocks. So now the next step is to turn. Sorry for the motion, if you guys get motion sick, and we're gonna, due to the fact that this is now gonna get large, we're coming back with
Heather
this.
says they call it a sun porch. Maybe?
Yes, sun porch probably.
Sunroom.
So now that we're crooked, there we go, not crooked. I'm gonna leave you guys.
In a house from 1697.
Wow.
That's an old house right there.
Okay, we're gonna start from way back here now, and this is where it's gonna grow so fast. What I'm gonna do is I have 4 blocks that have the pieced backs, and then the rest are non-pieced backs, so they're just the solid back. If you are just making the quilt with the solid backs only and you didn't bother piecing anything, and you cut up your 8 yards and made your 12 blocks, just start sewing them together in this manner. But I have piece blocks, so if you're following along and you're doing the pieced block version, like me, we're gonna throw these in the middle. So what we're gonna do,
Linda says the gold cornerstones are so pretty.
is we're gonna slide this one over and put my pieced block stack right here. We're gonna do 4 rows of 3. So we're gonna take one of my regular, solid is what I'm calling it back, where it's just one solid piece, and one of my pieced backs, like this, and we're gonna throw those right sides together. And I'm gonna grab the top and I'm gonna grab the bottom. And we're gonna move this kind of out of the way. And again, you can pin if you want, but I am not pinning nothing. My seams should be, I'm sewing on this side right here, should be nested right here at the bottom. And I'm going to back stitch, because this whole entire quilt I am back stitching now, because like I said, these blocks are like super enormous, so you definitely want to back stitch everything. So I'm going to line this up, 1/4 inch seam, lining it all up and sewing on down.
Are we done with
What?
Fine.
No, not yet. Okay. And if they're not nesting, just flip the seam up to nest. It's not very hard. Alright, so the right sides together, sewing on down. I'm going to flip this one seam because it looked like it was laying the right way, but it technically was not. Because I just overlooked it. Back stitch at the bottom, and then I'm gonna open it up, so now I have 2 of them together, and my sashing is already now built in with my cornerstone. And then I'm going to, since I did a solid and pieced, I'm gonna add another solid to this side. If you're just doing solids, again, just hook your 3rd piece together. So I'm gonna grab another one of these. I don't really care what order they're in, because they all have the same pieces in every single Dresden. So I'm gonna lay it on here and go, okay, that's where I want it. It's in the correct direction. It's going to get big fast, so this is the part that goes quick. So I'm going to back stitch. I'll lay this on here. Again, if you need to pin, pin.
Kim went with unbleached muslin as her backing fabric.
What?
Unbleached muslin as her backing fabric.
Oh, yes, that works too. And I gotta sneeze.
Hi, Cecil. Cecil says that's looking fantastic.
Instead I have cough. So I'm holding my nested seam down here because it is big and I have to keep adjusting. Just folding it, straighten everything out. Oops. My seam decided it wanted to veer again. Watch that seam, because this is getting heavy. These Dresden blocks are not the weight of a regular block. They are a lot heavier. Not only are they bigger and awkward, but they are heavier because now you have 2 layers of fabric, and in some spots all the way around it's technically 3 layers. The more seams you have, the heavier a block is. So You can only imagine a Dresden is quite a block. So if you start to veer away, come back and fix your seam so that way it's the way it's supposed to be. And I backstitch. So this is what we should have. This is now considered row 1. And now I'm going to press the seams all one direction. So this is going to be row 1.
That's awesome.
The seam that I just sewed is going to be pressed towards the right. The seam that I just sewed pressed towards the right. So there's row 1.
Totally awesome.
So we're going to come over here and press it and then lay it out of the way for now because they're very large. I'm just going to press all these one direction because that way when I sew the next row together, it's already
Do you want
ready.
me to watch that ironing?
Just be very careful pressing these because they're very large. You don't have a large area to dye.
Oh, we're reconnecting. We're live now. We just lost internet connection totally. Now reconnected.
Okay. So I just very carefully press those. And now what I'm going to do is take this whole entire row because it's row 1. And I am just going to move it out of the way and put it on the floor or wherever you have a place to stick it. And it's going face down. I don't want to get hair on this.
I know.
That has kept hair on it.
I know. Why are you telling me stuff I know?
Okay. So now we're just going to repeat that process. Oops, you forgot to turn the camera.
Okay.
We're just going to repeat that same process 3 more times for a total of 4 rows. So again, I'm going to take my solid, and my pieced blocks are just going to taper down the center of this quilt. So we're going to put a solid one and a pieced one, right sides together, and so. Again, I'm just going to adjust them with my fingers, lining them up. They should all be the exact same size, and I have no idea what just happened here, but...
What? Did you tear some thread? What?
There's when the AC kicked on it, like through all my thread.
It's possible. But the vent is way over here. Kind of odd.
Alright, I gotta rethread my machine real quick, guys. It went flying somewhere.
Well, it looks amazing so far, my love. Quilt is going to be fantastic when you are done.
Alright, it's threaded. Line it up, back stitch. Just line everything up, keeping them together. So my 1/4 inch seam. Adjust them. So. And then I'm going to come down here and nest my seam down here and hold it. The blocks are the same exact size, so they should line up even after building your sashing, which should have lined up too. Sewing my 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to put my little nested seam down and hold it here and sew the rest of the way. Back stitch at the end. I'm going to open it up and grab my 3rd piece and put that right sides together and just sew down this one now. And this will be row 2. And if you're lost, just refer back through the video after it's done being recorded.
Cecile says, Tiff, I'm working on my version of the fabric train quilt. I'm calling it the train wreck quilt.
awesome.
It's gonna be awesome. Post pictures in the group so we can see it.
And as I see threads behind the Dresdens, I'm plucking those as well. So I'm just going to nest my seam, hold it nice. Keeping my fabrics nice and lined up. Sewing my 1/4 inch seam. I gotta readjust it because it decided it wanted to move. That's probably why people use pins and I don't.
Diana, could you make this a quilt as you go?
What do you mean?
I
No,
read you the
there's
exact
no batting
sentence.
behind any of this, so I'm just building the rows with the sashing pre-made into them, like this. So I pre-made the sashing onto the blocks, and then all you have to do is sew the rows together, like this, which you can't really see because the camera is not even facing me properly.
Yes, it was. We
There we
saw it.
So I'm going to press those seams now to the left
You moved
instead
it
of
to
the right.
where you're not at.
So now the seams that I just sewed, not anything else, just the seams that I sewed are now going to the left because the first row they went to the right. And if you don't want to lose your rows that you're making, you can go ahead and sew row 1 and row 2 together first. So just the row, or the seam that I just sewed, you can tell that it's not been pressed because it wants to bubble up. I'm just going to use my hand to push it all to the left because my first row went to the right. And I'll take my iron to it and push it down like this.
Cecil said, is it doable as a quilt as you go?
Yeah,
Quilt?
you can do this as a quilt as you go. Definitely. Alright, so I'm going to move this out of the way.
Nita says, oh wow, Tiffany, you have put that together so quickly and it's so gorgeous.
Alright, so I'm going to lay this down
Did you hear me?
because this is row 2. Yes, I heard you. I'm going to lay it on the floor nicely for now. And then I'll sew all the rows together as soon as I get them sewn. So let's make another row. Again, I'm just going to take a pieced one. Can you turn the camera on?
Goodness. You just laid it down.
Okay, so again, a pieced one
Wait a
next to
second, Speedy.
a flat one. We're going to sew these 2 together and then add the third.
I don't move the camera as fast as you move. You can make people busy.
Just gonna line them up. 1/4 inch seam. When I make quilts with sashing, I tend to build the sashing into the blocks. And then the only thing I have to do is do the top of the quilt with cornerstones and sashing, and then the left of the quilt. Those are the only sides that need to add the last of the sashing to.
Are you going to put borders or is the sashing your border?
And then the border goes right on after the sashing. That's it.
Okay. So
So
there
I'm
is a
going to
border.
save that for tomorrow, yes.
There is a border?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We'll see that tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. Then I won't ask no more because I was curious.
And then the whole thing will be done. This, like I said, after you make the Dresden blocks, which is the part that takes the longest,
Well, then you got to quilt it.
well, yeah, but after that, the
And we
rest of the
still
quilt
need-
top goes together super fast.
We
Because
still
they're
need
big.
backing fabric.
Yeah, we have to order backing fabric, so that's why I'm quilting the other ideas first. I'm just going to line these up.
Diane said that's what she asked. The sashing would cover the seams?
Huh?
The sashing would cover the seams?
If you were doing quilt as you go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Alright.
And then Beverly asks, how many rows on the quilt?
3 blocks across by 4 rows down. So now I'm going to open this and add the next piece, which is another of the backing that's not pieced. Right sides together. Again, feel free to pin. I never do. There's no purpose in it for me, besides annoying me and poking me. But you guys can do how you're comfortable with. Just gonna line them up. So my 1/4 inch seam. Like I said, the blocks kind of get a little heavy. So just watch that. Just keep everything nice and straight and flush. Don't pull or tug. Just lay them on top of each other, sew down a little bit, and line it all back up. I tend to hold everything either way with my fingers. So I'm going to nest my seam down here. Just like that. Line everything up. Readjust. Holding the end of the block and the nested little seam that I did. Stopping at that seam, then stitch the rest of the way. Alright, so here's the next row. This one is going to get pressed to the right now. So just the seam that I sewed. So this seam is going to go towards the right. So here's another row so far. Just like that.
That is so cool.
Alright, so I'm going to come over here real quick and press these ones to the right. Just the one part that I sewed, not my previous seam. This one I sewed because we want it to lay as flat as possible. That way when I put the blocks together, it'll just nest those rows together nicely. Alright, come over to this next seam right here. And again, pressing it to the right. You can feel it with my hand. Everything's going the way I want. And I'll just take the iron and shove it on over.
Move that on over.
Just like that. I'm going to fold it in half and then stick it on the floor. And so my last row so I should have one pieced block left and 2 regulars. So I'm going to put my pieced on top of my 1 regular background. And I come over here and sew the last row together, and then we'll sew all the rows together. And they're big rows. Again, they're going to get heavy. Just watch.
It's going to be a heavy quilt, huh?
Yes. Lining it all up. If you have to pull on the bottom piece to straighten the fabric out, find it and give it just a little tug. And find my end, nest my seam. Holding it on my sewing table or extension table or whatever you want to call this. Just going to hold it where it needs to be. Open this up. Grab the last piece. Backstitch. I backstitched everything. Even though the rows are getting hooked together, I'm still backstitching everything. Because of the size of all these blocks, we want, if any of the thread pulls or tugs, we don't want any of it ripping out, so we want backstitching. So again, if you got to just reach under and straighten everything, just give it a good little straighten. Or what I would say, like fluff it just a little, you know? Fluff it and it should line everything right back up. It's fabric, it moves quite easily. Gonna nest this bottom one, hold it in place as if it was a pin until it gets to right here. Lay it down, holding it as if it was a pin. Come up to it and backstitch. And this one I'm going to press to the left, just the seams that I sewed. So I'm going to use my hands underneath to pull that seam to the left side. And I use my hand on top to push it down, and then the iron just pushes against it, flatten it out, like that. Shouldn't have no creases or bumps in it, as long as you hold it to the side. So again, it's going to go to the left, so that's towards me, like this. You could even just leave the lump there and pull on the side as you go. Just like that. And since these rows are so darn huge, we're going to stack them on top of each other right here and put row 3 on top of row 4, just like this. So you know you want it laying up here, like this. I'm going to put it right sides together.
Do you want me to help you? Stand at one end?
I got it.
Okay.
I'm going to put them right sides together, and I'm going to grab the end that I want to sew with, which is this far end. Everything up. You can pin it. I'm not pinning crap because I don't want it. I'm just holding it with my fingers. I came to my seat. I was holding this first seam and this end together. They line up perfectly. I'll lay the rest of it on my lap. And again, this is heavy, so back stitch, nice good back stitch, and sew all the way down row 3 and row 4. I'm going to re-find that seam again so that I can hold at it. It should be nested nicely. Lining it up, both of those are lined up. Kind of sitting a little far away. So here's my first nested seam coming up. And then the next one, they should lay opposite sides the whole way down. So I'm going to just finger nest them. Stop at that next seam junction and then start sewing all the way down. So as you can tell, I have pre-built the sashing into the quilt so that way we didn't have to lay it out and count how many pieces and blah 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 blah. The sashing can be frustrating at times, so if you just pre-build it onto the block, it goes a lot faster. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to hold this seam. They literally just touch so perfectly. If you cut everything correct and sewed a 1/4 inch seam throughout the whole thing, it should line right up. And now I'm going to nest this next seam, just holding it. Stop at it. And now I'm on the last of it. Because there's only 3 blocks, they're just really long. Alright, I'm going to nest my final seam. It should nest right up. Hold it as if it was a pin. Straighten everything out. Back stitch. And I have now row 3 and 4 together. Oh my goodness. Separate. There we go. So here's row 3 and 4 together.
Wow. That's awesome.
So what I'm going to do is just lay it on the ironing board.
Oh, we ironing again?
Yep. And I'm going to press that seam one way or the other. It doesn't matter at this point now. I'm just going to let it go upward because that's the way it's wanting to lay. And I'm just going to press it and then...
Yep.
Come on. That way it's nice and flat.
And it's awesome. Wow, looking so good. Wow, oh pretty.
Again, I'm just pressing the seam whatever way it felt like going.
Patty says, wow.
I'm going to adjust it.
Diane says, awesome Tiff, very timeless. DB says, beautiful.
Okay, so after this is pressed, we're going to grab row 2 and sew row 2 on. I have a little fold under there and I can feel it just by pressing.
Beverly says, gorgeous.
Alright, so this is the part that it gets really heavy. So we're going to lay this, keeping this on whatever flat surface that you have. And I'm going to grab row 2, just like this. I'm going to lay it up here. I'm going to make sure that my sashing is going the direction it's supposed to.
Vicky
so
says it's timeless and beautiful.
should be
She
on the
agrees
bottom.
with everyone above.
And then right sides together. Again, this is now even more heavier when you take it over to the sewing machine. So if you need to pin.
Do you want me to help you carry it over there?
Fine. As long as I hold the first seam.
Zella says, I love it. Vicky says it's gorgeous too.
Alright, here we go. So I'm going to move the iron back over here so I don't trip over it. I'm going to grab my first nested seam right here. This is my first one, and then the top of the quilt. And the rest of it, because I lined it all up, should just lay nicely on my lap. Just like this.
I think it was big.
And it grew quick, let me tell you. Alright. I'm going to reline it up. I'm going to back stitch.
Teresa says, very, very pretty.
Alright, so let's just
Suburban says pretty.
sew on down. I'm just going to adjust it as I go. I can feel underneath, keeping everything nice and straight, nice and flat, no pulling, no tugging. The quilt is literally sitting on my lap.
Elena says, it has indeed grown fast.
Yeah, these big blocks for Dresdens, the bigger Dresdens, the 10-inch ones, they get big quick. So I'm going to find my first seam to nest. They should be opposite. I'm just going to hold them now. Everything is like seriously flat, like so flat. This is probably one of my flattest Dresdens. Maybe it's because it's super enormous. That's why. And it was easier to get straight because they were so big.
Probably.
Yes, the second two, they should be opposite of each other already because we pressed everything every other way. And now I'm just going to reach under, grab the bottom, and then line the top on it. Just keep going all the way down.
Beverly says someone is going to be excited to get this quilt. I'm excited just watching it come together.
Yeah, she's already excited because she's been watching my videos.
Yep, she's been watching the videos. She called after Tiff got the first block put together, and all she said was, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I was like, who is this?
Just adjusting it. From the bottom, I'm at my second seam. They are opposite of each other. I stop in the seam or just after it. Line up some more. So I'm going to just nest this last bottom seam. Hold it. Back stitch. And now I'm going to go ahead and press. You can press however you want. Again, let it
It's
do
getting
whatever it
huge
wants
now.
to do. Just going to move that out of the way. And trip and fall and break my neck. Just kidding. So I'm just going to press this, give it a little bit of heat first real quick. And then fold it back because it's probably going to be the easiest now that it's so big. And I still have one more row to attach. If you just did these 9 together by themselves, you'd have a nice big square quilt, and all you would have to do is add your final sashing if you only did 9 blocks. Like I did on my last, I did 8 blocks on my last one with a unicorn in the center of my Dresden. Pressing it, everything's flat. Fold it back. Let's get the last of it over there. This is what it really good to when it's really good to have a nice big pressing surface. So if you have a crafty husband with some wood, just have him build you a nice big ironing board like this. Whew, makes things so much easier.
Yep, and we got videos. I'm doing it. You guys can watch the videos in direct. That's what my wife did. She directed me.
Alright. So now what we're going to do, we're going to pull it down.
She's definitely the brains of the operation. Right, honey?
Slide it to the side. This is definitely bigger than twin size now, but like I said, it's definitely, it's bigger than twin size because it's supposed to be able to lay on a day bed, you know, the kind that have that pull out trundle, so that when the trundle is pulled out and lifted up, it makes like almost a king size. That way it lays over the top of the whole thing, not to the sides of it, just the top. And a twin is like 39 by 70 inches. What did I say? What, 39 by 75. So
Vicky says, good thing you have a long arm.
yeah,
Quilt
makes
it
it easier. Definitely. But I would have done the same exact, if I had, you know, just my domestic, I would have quilted it like that too. Alright, so I'm laying this on itself. Now it's even heavier. This is the last one, so I'm going to throw this iron over here now. We're going to pick up the whole entire thing from the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of two-hand walk it, and I know I'm wrinkling it as I go, but I have this first seam.
Right here, I could easily help you.
We're going to lay the most of it on the table.
She won't let me help her do anything.
We'll lay the most of it on the table, the rest of it on my lap. I'm going to nest this first seam and straighten up this top because it's, let me just fiddle it with my fingers. There we go.
Are you
Nice
going to iron
and
again?
straight. Yes, one more time.
Okay, I'll move that over here some.
Back stitch. And again, I can just reach under and straighten everything out as needed. And then after I finish sewing this, I'll have Scott hold it up so I could show you about what we need left to do, but I'm going to save that for tomorrow so that tomorrow we'll finish off the sashing and then the border.
You've been on 2 hours today.
I'm getting hungry. I definitely, or else I'd keep going, but I'm like starving hungry. So.
Starving Marvin?
Yes, I'm starving Marvin. Alright, so I'm going to hold my seam down here. I'm going to adjust everything with my hand. Not letting it move or stretch. Just keep it nice and flat. Stop at that first seam. The next seam. So you guys will have the general idea of the pretty much the whole quilt minus the last of the sashing and the final border.
What is Diane? That she's self-sufficient? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
She says that's what I love about you. I'm not sure what she's getting at. Elena says as long as you don't get hangry, Tiffany. You know, hungry and angry. Hangry.
Yeah. Well, if I continue
That's
on,
pretty funny.
that's what's going to happen. So, definitely just need to finish this part of it today and do the rest tomorrow. I'm just nesting.
Hi, Joyce.
Stopping in the seam. Lining everything back up. Sticking my hand between the quilt top. Because at this point, it's already a quilt top. Alright, so now the last seam right here, the last and only one, because there's not one on two sides, just nest that last one up, hold it nicely, or, you know, pin it if you need.
Oh, that she's so driven to get things done.
Someone here?
Yes. Yes, you do some.
Oh,
So it's half day.
I just heard weird sounds.
Yes, Tiffy is very driven to get her quilts going.
Yeah.
She absolutely loves her hobby.
And back stitch. And now I'm just going to press it and then we'll reveal. So leave the camera right here because you guys already know what pressing looks like. Leave it alone.
You don't want? Okay.
Nope, because we'll reveal.
Okay.
CJ, I'm going to need you in a minute.
I think he's eating something, but I'm
This
sure
is
he'll
just
be
the
done.
pre-reveal because technically it still needs sashing and a border. But just give me a second to press it and then I'll show you guys where we're at.
And you say it's already bigger than a twin size?
Yes,
See?
now it is.
What did I tell you this whole time? It's going to be bigger.
Yep.
Because Tiffy always goes bigger.
Go big or go home.
Darn
As
right.
long as it's not bigger than my frame, I guess it's okay.
Bigger go home.
I'm finished pressing this one off.
Yeah, so Heather said go bigger go home.
So, and I'll give you guys instructions on making it even bigger at this point, not even adding any more blocks, just how to make it bigger. Because we still have leftover fabric, so if you're not doing that secondary project, you definitely could add to this and have yourself a nice big queen or king size quilt. Alright. So as always, I'm going to have the boys hold it up.
You just want us to hold it up over here?
And I'm going to move out of the way. So CJ, just carefully
Okay,
try not to
okay.
stretch and pull. Just grab the ends.
Not going to stretch and pull. I just going to hold.
Hold on. I got to... I'm blocking the camera, guys. Sorry about that. I need to move this completely out of the way now.
Read your little comments on there too when they pop up because I can't see any of them.
So right now...
It's stretching itself. Yeah.
Yeah, just be very careful.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this really quickly, like... Ready, guys? This is what we should have so far. So there's the top. You can see that the top, oops, sorry. The top still needs the sashing, and the sides still needs sashing. It ends with the cornerstones. So again, that far side is going to get sashing, cornerstone, sashing, cornerstone, all the way up, and then across the top. And we'll do that tomorrow. Okay? So I'm going to bring you guys back over here for a minute and set you down. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm sorry about all the wiggling and moving. You guys can
I'm fine. Today was shoulder day, so it's good.
carefully.
It's good.
Me. I just need the top right here.
Dan says, OMG, it's huge.
Yes.
They're saying gorgeous, wonderful, awesome, very pretty.
And it's going to lay over a twin bed nicely,
Hi,
over
Judy.
double nicely. But I'm going to give you guys a general idea here because there was leftover fabric, you know. This is just if you want to do it this way. I'm doing my
Elena
way.
says even bigger, faints.
Yes, it's
That's
just got
pretty good.
one more sashing side. So again, this still needs
Yeah,
sashing.
she's still not done, guys. She's still going to put a border
then
and everything.
One border is what I'm doing. But say you want to go queen size. All this right here, all this fabric, there's more, is left over from cutting your background, right? So you had all those extra pieces. You could take these, sew them together, and say do a 3.5 inch border and have a 3 inch finished all the way around from this color, and then put your actual chosen border fabric. Or say you didn't want to do that, you can end it with the sashing, or if you are not building the secondary project, you can take all of this and cut it up into half square triangles, you know, and create half square triangles or whatever have you, or just strip piece like a piano keyboarder. You can cut all this up and make something as your first border and then finish it with your second border again, or whatever. You can like super get creative. That's why there's extra pieces if you're not doing the secondary project. So if you want to make this a queen size or even bigger, the more borders you add, the better. And they'll look amazing, like all that.
Diane says I can make a
lined
king
up.
out of it easy.
Yes, all this fabric could make a king size.
Elena
Especially
says,
since
thank
we have
you
lots
for
of
all your
extra
hard work.
cutoffs. You can finish with the sashing. You can put the background fabric first in another 2.5-inch border, your background color, and then add more strips of the sashing color outside of that, and then another border. Like, you can literally get super creative. I'm just going to finish the sashing on the two sides, which is the top and bottom, tomorrow, and then we're going to cut the actual border fabric and add that, and then it should be very large. And I didn't even measure how large it is now at this point because, well, I haven't yet.
Well, Elena said thank you for all your hard work.
So,
Beverly said it's just awesome, gorgeous. I can't find the correct words. Wow.
so there it is, 3 across by 4 down. We still have more sashing to do, but obviously, you know, I think it looks lovely. And none of the Dresdens landed in the same direction. You can see they're all different.
Elena says I can't believe you still had leftovers.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna finish that tomorrow. Just gonna kind of try
See you later, Vicky. Have a good day.
to fold it right here.
Darlene says it's so beautiful.
The halfway point,
They're so big, comma, beautiful.
like this. Just gonna kind of fold it.
Vicky says it will be
Very
fabulous.
carefully. The less you handle it at this point, the better, because it doesn't have a final border on it, so it's gonna stretch.
Darlene asks, what size will it be when it's
Well,
finally
at
done?
first I was thinking it was 75 by 93-ish is what it was gonna be, but now I'm starting to think that I'm a little off on my math. What's 25 times 3? 75. So
Yes,
it's going to be
75.
75 by 90 something without the first border.
Was that 25
Yeah,
there?
yeah, because they're 25-inch blocks.
Okay.
Minus the half-inch seams, which still left me a half-inch on the end. So since they're 20, yeah.
Yes,
So
but you're having a sashing and a
before
border.
the final border, it's 75 by 93. Or 75. No, 75 by 75. No, 75 by 93 because there's 25 more inches. See, I was correct except for the last border. So the final border just gives it that like extra hangover.
Diana asks, how many hours do you have in this quilt?
However many hours the video is, besides a couple of little bits of cutting off screen that I really didn't.
You did
cut
a couple
much
hours off
screen.
screen, but not much.
Probably like 2 hours off screen total. The rest of it's all been in front of you guys.
So is this what, day 5 or 6? Because we did 2 hours
This
each
is
day.
day 6.
Okay,
yeah.
so that's 12. Say about 15 hours.
So about 15 so far. And then remember, we still have the rest for the sashing that we sewed together. So that's just we're gonna cut 12-inch 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're gonna cut 7 23-inch strips from this. Hook cornerstones to it, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I don't think she
6,
wants to open
7,
it up
8,
again
9.
to measure it, Diane.
9.
We'll measure it all when it's done.
It'll get measured when it's done. And I can even measure the inner side with just the sashing on the outer border, so whatever. It's a big quilt. It'll fit perfectly on a twin, nicely on a full, and probably lay to cover a queen or king. It's just a big quilt, so.
Maybe she's going for a big tip here. That's why it came out so big, huh?
the bigger the quilt, the bigger the tip. That
Uh.
doesn't work that way. All right, guys, I'm starving. I'm gonna get off of here. Later today, I'll be posting an idea number 2 towards the How to Quilt a Dresden ideas, and tomorrow I'll be back at 11 a.m. to put the sashing and final border. Give it a 100% measurement because it will be fine. It'll be the size I think it'll be. And yeah, and then when I quilt it, I'll quilt it when I get backing for it. So between now and then, it'll just be videos on how to quilt Dresden, different ideas. So All right. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Like, share my videos with your quilty friends. And I hope that you guys are posting pictures. In the pinned above is the Facebook group. I totally forgot to say that this whole time. In the pinned comments, please join the Facebook group and share your progress. It doesn't even have to be a Dresden. You can share the progress of what you're working on, because I like to watch. So, or see the, pictures. So, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Bye. Tomorrow at 11.